Today's chapter is quite short and it's called Base Camp. They decided the first thing to do was build a camp in Furniture Forest so they could keep a closer eye on the Emporium. Virginia wanted to go up the sycamore tree and see the beetles, but Darcus thought they should wait until Humphrey and Pickering were out, and Bertolt had strongly agreed. As there's 3 of us on this adventure, Bertolt said, shouldn't we have a name, like the Fabulous 4 or the Famous 5? No. Virginia screwed up her face. We are not having a name. But we could be called the 3 Beetleteers, Bertolt said, like the Musketeers, but with beetles. What are you, 7? Names are lame. Bertolt wasn't listening. Or we could be a gang called the Beetle Boys. He paused. And girl. Can I tape his mouth up? Virginia asked. It's getting on my nerves. Darcus laughed. How about the Bug Detectives? Bertolt tilted his head, looking hopeful. I'd rather eat my own leg than be in a gang called the Bug Detectives. Virginia shook her head and changed the subject. Where are we going to build the camp? It needs to be in a place far away enough from the Emporium so that we can make a bit of noise and not be discovered, but with a clear view so we can see into all the windows, Darcus reasoned. That's going to be in the back left-hand corner, Bertolt said. The sycamore tree obscures the view from the right. We need to find and make proper paths through the furniture, Darcus said, so we can move around quickly and disappear if we need to. Can we make booby traps? Bertolt asked, in case someone tries to follow us here. That sounds good, Darcus nodded enthusiastically. What about explosions? Darcus's nostrils flared at the thought. In the booby traps, I mean. I think most of this furniture is flammable, Darcus replied with a frown. Of course. Bertolt scratched his head. Perhaps just a few bangers? Come on then. Virginia moved on to her hands and knees, crawling her way through a backless cupboard. Let's get moving. The 3 of them set about worming their way around Furniture Forest, mapping its alleyways and dead ends, quietly moving things to clear paths and create a labyrinth only they knew the secrets of. They signalled to each other in silence as they moved chairs, lifted boxes and slid shelves around, creating hidden doorways, wider tunnels and paths to nowhere. At the southern corner of the yard, as far away from the Emporium as possible, they constructed a room against the garden walls, using tall pieces of furniture and sheets of tarpaulin for the roof. They dragged in the grandfather clock, complete with resident mouse, and used the black door with the silver 73 to make the entrance. We should call this place Base Camp, Bertolt suggested as he pushed a circular coffee table into the middle of the floor. That's what you call a camp on a mountainside just before you get to the top. Darcus was rearranging the shelves in a metal unit to make a wall. Base Camp. He tried out the name. That's good. Look at all this amazing stuff I've found. Virginia came through the door with an armful of goodies, which she unloaded onto the sofa. A telescope for spying, an oil lamp, some string, always useful, a mirror and a car battery. This is nice. Bertolt picked up the brass telescope and peered down it. We could use it to see into the Emporium. They don't call him Einstein for nothing, Virginia teased. I wonder if Pickering and Humphrey got into the bedroom last night, Darcus said. He'd been worrying about the beetles all day. That armchair is really heavy and I wedged it under the handle so they couldn't turn it. We could take the telescope and find out. Virginia grabbed it out of Bertolt's hands. Darcus nodded, looking about. We've pretty much got the camp built now. Bertolt shrugged. Okay. They made their way through their newly constructed tunnels to a lookout post in line with what appeared to be Humphrey and Pickering's kitchen window up on the first floor. Ooh, look at that! Bertolt pointed to the languishing crystal chandelier poking out of a suitcase. Can we bring that back to base camp on our way back? Virginia had climbed up on top of a tall chest of drawers and poked the telescope out through a hole in the tarpaulin. I can see one of them in the kitchen, she whispered. He's putting his coat on. She turned round. Do you think he's going out? We could go round the front and check, Darcus suggested. Virginia shimmied back down the chest of drawers. Go, 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 or we'll miss him. The three of them scrambled over to a ladder they'd strapped to the wall. Scaling it and dropping down the other side, they ran through Uncle Max's flat and out into the street. Looking up and down, they could see no sign of the neighbours, so they pelted across the road and burst into the empty laundrette, throwing themselves on the ground behind the rows of machines in the window. "There he is," Darker said, breathless, pointing across the street. "That's the skinny one. His name's Pickering." Bertolt and Virginia peered out over the top of a washing machine as a tall, bony man, dressed in a tatty mackintosh, emerged from the door beside the boarded-up shop and scurried away up the street. Darker suddenly remembered that in a moment of blind panic he'd told Pickering that he lived next door. He hoped Pickering still believed he was lying, or had forgotten what he'd said. He was about to tell Virginia and Bertolt when the grey door opened again. He grabbed them and pulled them down behind the machine. "That's the other one," he whispered. "That's Humphrey." "He's ginormous," Bertolt gasped, peeping through the gap in the machines. Humphrey plodded off in the opposite direction to Pickering. "I know," Darkus agreed. "He's the one that said wanted to put me in a pie." "Wait!" Virginia looked at him. "If they're both out, surely now is a good time to meet the beetles and see the mountain." Bertolt swallowed. Isn't that breaking and entering?" "Only if we break something," Darkus said, grinning at Virginia. "We're not going to steal anything, and if we're quick, we can be back out of there before they get back." Virginia tried to reassure Bertolt. "It's dangerous," Bertolt pointed out. "Danger is my middle name." "No, it isn't," Bertolt muttered, fidgeting nervously with a loose thread hanging from his blazer cuff. "It's Winifred." "Come on, Bertolt," Darkus cajoled. "I swear, you've never seen anything like this before, and it might help my dad." Bertolt gave the tiniest of nods with the unhappiest of faces.